Prime Minister has decided to fight on. Number 10 are making the point that he has a mandate to stay until 2029. Why shouldn't he stay?
Look, he shouldn't stay because, frankly, every decision he's made since he became Prime Minister in July 2024 has been detrimental to this country. We've seen sluggish growth, unemployment increase, sovereign British territory being given away in the Chagos Islands, family farms tax, winter fuel allowance scandal, you name it. Even before we got to the Peter Mandelson appointment, this government was going very much in the wrong direction. So this Prime Minister, frankly, needs to go. The Cabinet knows that he needs to go, but with a difficult series of elections coming up, nobody's brave enough to put their head above the parapet and actually take on the burden of leading that party in this country.
So one person that has called for him to go is Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar.
Yeah.
Why do you think he took that opportunity to do that?
Well, Anas Sarwar obviously looks like he was trying to distance himself from this Labour government, but in doing so makes himself look completely out of the loop and inconsequential when it comes to internal Labour politics or wider British politics. He went over the top and found that nobody was following him, and frankly he's now asking the Scottish public to vote for a party in which he himself has got no confidence in the leadership of. I mean, it just doesn't stack up. So Anas Sarwar, I'm afraid, is looking more and more ridiculous by the hour. Yes, he's right, the Prime Minister needs to go, but to go over the top and then to ask people to follow him, nonsense.
And it does look like Scottish Labour in chaos right now, but based on the polling, your party are less popular than them, they're less popular than Reform, and they're less popular than the SNP. Shouldn't you be focusing your own party's problems?
Well, no, we're focusing on the issues facing the Scottish people. It's the Labour Party that are focused on division and civil war, leadership speculation, navel gazing. We're focusing on the problems facing the economy in Scotland, the problems facing communities in Scotland that are being dragged behind as a result of Scottish National Party failure over the last near 20 years. The Scottish Conservatives always poll worse than we actually perform in elections, and I'm absolutely certain we're going to confound expectations again in May.
So if what you want to happen happens, which is the Prime Minister does go, what happens next? Would you want to see a general election?
Look, I mean, I don't think the British public would thank us for a general election, but if that's what happens, that's what happens. The Conservative Party are ready to fight an election whenever it is called, and Kemi Badenoch's ready to step into the breach as next Prime Minister whenever she's called upon.
And you're not concerned that that might just be handing over the keys of number 10 essentially to Nigel Farage and Reform UK?
No, we'll fight the Labour Party, we'll fight Reform, we'll fight the SNP in Scotland, we'll fight the Green Party, we'll fight Plaid in Wales, we'll fight whatever, wherever there is a battle to be fought. The Conservative Party are the only party with a plan to grow our economy and make this country stronger, and in Kemi Badenoch we've got a leader that can deliver just that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I came to the House in the wake of information released by the United States Department for Justice around the depth and extent of Peter Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I outlined immediate steps this government took, including initial review of material which ultimately led to a referral to the Metropolitan Police, and steps taken to modernise the disciplinary procedures to allow for the removal of peers who have brought the House of Lords into disrepute. I'm here today, Mr. Speaker, to update the House on further action the government will take to rebuild trust in public life in the wake of these damaging revelations since my statement last week. I'll finish the statement first, if I may. Mr. Speaker, I am sure the House will agree with me. The issues of standards, while important in and of themselves, do not meet the scale of disgust that we all have when we see powerful, rich men misuse their positions to abuse women and girls. These procedural rules, and the rules that I will talk to the House about today, Mr. Speaker, are important given what has been able to happen in the past, but we should start by recognising that our response, collectively, requires wider changes in the culture and use of power wherever it rests. This goes to the heart of who my right honourable friend the Prime Minister is. It is why he became a human rights lawyer in the first place, why he became the Director for Public Prosecutions, and why he changed the Crown Prosecution Service to be more victims-oriented, and it is why he became Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I set out last week, Jeffrey Epstein was a despicable criminal who committed disgusting crimes. The Epstein scandal is another awful example of a culture that did not value the lives, let alone the voices, of women and girls. The series and sequencing of events across the last week has rightly made clear to us all that for too long and too often, influential people in positions of power overwhelmingly men, have been able to avoid proper and just scrutiny because of the perverse power structures that incentivise their belief that rules do not apply to them. And if I may say so, Mr. Speaker, members chuntering from the benches opposite, whilst I am talking about the victims of sexual abuse and abuse of power, should know better and should recognise that they should be quiet and listen when we are talking about the victims and the justice they deserve to seek. Peter Mandelson's disgraceful behaviour raises a number of questions about the ability of the current standard system to catch those few who seek to break our rules. This damages all of us across the House. The vast majority of public servants, whether officials or elected members, come to serve the public, not themselves. This House, indeed this building, is full of people working hard, unsociable hours, making significant personal sacrifices in order to try and make a difference to people's lives, to do what is best for their country, to fight for their communities, to use their position in this place to give a voice to those whose voices are too often not heard. The issues associated with Peter Mandelson, however, show that we must go further to ensure that no one can ever again behave in this way. Since entering government, Mr. Speaker, we have delivered on our manifesto promises to strengthen the role of the independent advisor, and we have set up the Ethics and Integrity Commission, whilst also publishing ministers' interests, gifts and hospitalities more frequently, and reforming severance payments to ensure that they are proportionate and fair. This is significant and important reform after years of repeated ethics scandals under the last administration. This includes restricting payments for ministers leaving office following a serious breach of the ministerial code, and requiring repayment of severance for those found to be in breach of the business appointment rules. Mr. Speaker, it's also why the government has introduced the Public Office Accountability Bill, a landmark piece of legislation to tackle injustice, so that when tragedy strikes, the state is called to account. In response to the latest revelations in the past week, the Prime Minister has confirmed that the government will bring forward legislation to ensure peerages can be removed from disgraced peers, and that Peter Mandelson will be removed from the list of Privy Councillors. And we are changing the process for the relevant direct ministerial appointments, including politically appointed diplomatic roles, so that in cases where the role requires access to highly classified material, the selected candidate must have passed through the requisite national security vetting process before such appointments are announced or confirmed. But, Mr. Speaker, we recognise we need to go further. We will work with the newly established Ethics and Integrity Commission to ensure that it achieves its aims of promoting the highest standards in public life. We will consider whether the current arrangements for the declaration and publication of financial interests for ministers and senior government officials are sufficient, and whether in the future regular published financial disclosure forms or other additional transparency measures should be used. We will look closely at our system for providing transparency around lobbying, and, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that we should consider again the use of non-corporate communications channels within government. Revelations from the Epstein files have shown that it has been far too easy to forward sensitive information via unofficial channels. There is a lack of clarity about the use of non-corporate communication channels within government, which has raised concerns about the security of official information. As members on the benches opposite know from their former ministers who also forwarded information from the government via private email accounts to people when they shouldn't. The government recognises the consistent cause for a strategic review of these channels, the role they play in government, the legal framework in which they sit, and whether the current codes of conduct and guidance relating to them are effective. Mr. Speaker, this work will focus on the issues for government, but will complement a range of work being carried out in both this House and in the other place. The government is committed to the principle that second jobs for members of Parliament should be banned outside of very limited exceptions, such as maintaining professional qualification. The Committee on Standards is currently conducting an inquiry into second jobs, and we are working with the committee to deliver meaningful change as quickly as possible. The House is considering the legislation currently before Parliament to introduce a duty of candour, and the Prime Minister has been clear that we will bring forward legislation to enable the removal of peerages from those who brought the House of Lords into disrepute. And, Mr. Speaker, the government will ask the Lords Conduct Committee to expand its work reviewing the Code of Conduct in the other place to consider whether standards issues, including the rules relating to peers and lobbying, need to be reformed. Finally, Mr Speaker, I want to provide the House with an update on the response to the humble address motion passed by the House last Wednesday. The Government is committed to publishing all relevant documents in line with the motion agreed by the House and is working at pace to do so. As the House agreed on Wednesday, papers which the Government believes should not be published on national security or international relations grounds will be referred to the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament. The Prime Minister wrote to the Chair of the committee on Friday, acknowledging that it is important that documents are made available to Parliament as soon as possible. And as the Prime Minister has set out, the Government is committed to being as transparent as soon as possible and in full compliance with the motion. The Prime Minister has asked the Cabinet Secretary to liaise with the Intelligence and Security Committee, and I will ensure that the House is kept updated on this work. Mr Speaker, we have all been appalled at Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting crimes and Peter Mandelson's despicable behaviour. It is utterly contrary to what the Prime Minister stands for and the values at the heart of this government. We are resolute in our commitment to fighting men's violence against women and girls and supporting their victims. Delivering on this mission is a critical part of our response to the terrible misogyny at the heart of the Epstein scandal. We also recognise that Peter Mandelson's behaviour has posed difficult questions about our safeguards against corruption. I have set out today, Mr Speaker, the steps the government is taking to ensure that the British public can have confidence in the integrity of public life, and I will continue to update the House, as I said last Monday and today, on these matters as our works develop. Mr Speaker, I commend this statement to the House.
Shut up, minute.